Caitlin Clark makes her highly anticipated return to Carver Hawkeye Arena, this time with her Indiana Fever. Plus, Iowa football, they got one big question after spring football finishes.
You are Locked On Hawkeyes, your daily podcast on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome in. I'm Trent Condon, and this is the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for being with us and making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. I've been covering the Iowa Hawkeyes for over 20 years on the radio, currently on the Iowa Sports Radio Network with stations all across the state. Over in Western Iowa in Sioux City, Central Iowa, our flagship 106.3 KXNO in Des Moines, Cedar Rapids 95.7, 800 KXIC in Iowa City, and in the Quad Cities. You can hear me each weekday from noon to 2, talking Hawkeyes and a whole lot more on the Iowa Sports Radio Network with Ken Miller. Coming up today, we have a lot to get into as we wrap up the week. A look forward of what's going to happen at Carver Hawkeye Arena this weekend with Caitlin Clark making her return to Carver and what it should be like in an incredible environment at Carver Hawkeye. Iowa baseball, they look to bounce back after just an absolutely heartbreaking, devastating loss in their midweek loss to Illinois State. They need to bounce back now late night as they go to the West Coast to take on Washington in Seattle. We will talk about that. And we'll be joined by Tom Kakert from HawkeyeReport.com. Tom's thoughts on what's happening on the basketball scene, the latest in the recruiting in the transfer portal for both Iowa men and the Iowa women's basketball programs, what's happening with spring football wrapping up, and a whole lot more coming up with Tom Kakert. But we begin today with Iowa football's biggest concern. And as we look at the different position groups, we look through, and a lot of questions have been answered for Iowa football. Is this team going to look different than what we've grown accustomed to? And as we've seen this build now going into year number 2 of Tim Lester and what he is creating, the excitement is palpable. The excitement is reasonable. And you can see after the growth that they made a year ago, what continues to happen going into next season. Wide receiver seems to be this conversation we have every year. Going into each and every year, after every single spring, well, can they find somebody to catch the ball? Can they find somebody that can get open? Can they find anybody that can help out at wide receiver? Well, not only do you feel pretty good about the Jacob Gills of the world and some of the other guys that we've seen these last couple of seasons, for the first time in a long time, Iowa has depth at wide receiver. We didn't get to see Mark Gronowski at the quarterback spot. We did not get to see him going through the offense, but he was going through the progressions. He was taking snaps, and though he wasn't throwing the ball live until very late in spring practice, he was able to get at least a general understanding of things. Plus, Mark Gronowski was highly coveted. This was a guy coming out of the transfer portal that absolutely people wanted, not just in Iowa City, but programs across the country. This was a wanted commodity, and Iowa was able to go out and get him. Will it translate? We don't know. That is guesswork. But Iowa got somebody that other people wanted at quarterback and looks to be a guy that can absolutely be a difference maker. Offensive line, there are question marks there. Still, you return 3 starters. Running back stable looks very solid at minimum. We actually feel good. Kind of all systems in the offense, which is crazy to say after spring football. You go over defensively. And that's where more question marks actually are this year. And I believe the biggest concern is one that I think has fallen a little bit off the radar. And it's linebacker. Defensive line, I think there's enough depth there. And from the young talent coming in, one guy, we haven't talked at all about Yosei Epinesa. And I think Yosei, at minimum, is going to be a guy that is a rotational piece that's going to be able to get you 15 to 20 high-level snaps each and every game. Yeah, there's a growth curve. And yes, there's going to be things that the nuances of the position at the Division I level, at the Big Ten level, that he's not going to understand yet. But you look at the athleticism, you look at the ability, you look at the bloodlines, you saw what his older brother was able to do during his freshman campaign. And Yosei, for a lot of people, they believe that he's a better prospect than AJ even was, which is crazy. But that also shows you how people believe that Yosei is going to translate into this level. And we barely talked about him. And some of those other young guys, Joseph Anderson, a couple of the other redshirt freshmen that really had it, and I think have a chance to help out. Plus, so it comes back. Max Llewellyn's going to be a star. You feel good about that defensive line, even losing more talent again this past season, including Wyatt Black in the middle. The transfer portal candidates at D-tackle have been good. Hawthorne has popped. Pace has been right there. You're feeling good there. Defensive back, look, they're still shopping, and there's a reason for it. But I believe maybe the biggest concern for Iowa football shouldn't be any of those things that we talk about. It should be the linebacker spot. Iowa, over the last decade, has had some elite-level linebacker play. And you look at like guys like the Hitman, what they were able to do in the middle, and going back to James Morris to the present day, Jack Campbell leading into Jay Higgins, not just the middle spot, but those outside backers. And it's been so good for so long. I think us as Hawkeye fans forget when linebacker play isn't very good. And when linebacker play isn't good, when those guys are missing tackles, when those guys are out of position, this Iowa defense under Phil Parker, it goes from elite or very good to pretty average very quickly. And that is a piece of it that is just so often overlooked. Linebacker play. You have guys that have stuck around, guys that have waited their turn, guys that we've been hearing about for a really long time. And I start with Carson Shire. So coming out of Iowa Falls, and maybe also have some connections there. One of my good buddies grew up there, get together with a lot of Iowa Falls people. So because of that, maybe that's a reason for it. But Carson Shire's been a guy that's been talked about. Athleticism through the roof. Can make all the plays, can run sideline to sideline. He's got speed. But he's never been able to stay healthy. That still has to be a concern. And then after him, we're talking about a bunch of young guys. The other in the middle is Jaden Harrell. And I brought up Jaden Harrell because, A, called a bunch of his games in high school at Urbandale, but secondly, he's another guy that he could have been a starter a lot of places the last couple of years. He didn't. But really the only memorable moment that we have from Jaden Harrell, who is your presumed starter at middle linebacker, is going back to a goal line stand when they brought an extra linebacker in at Wrigley Field against Northwestern. That's basically been it. That's basically all that we have seen out of him throughout his career. Yeah, he's been a special teamer. Yeah, he's been out there doing special teams, but a guy that just has not had a whole lot of reps. And that leaves you kind of wondering what that's going to look like. When they go with three linebackers, it's another redshirt senior and Jackson Rexroth. And then you get into the young guys. I guess there is one other guy that probably bears mentioning in Landon Van Kerkricks, who has been out there, another special teamer wearing 23. Montgomery, he's been banged up a little bit. Jerry Montgomery's son, he's also in the mix at the linebacker spot. But then you get into the young guys, from Derek Weiskopf to Preston Reese. These young guys, and the three of them that have come in, and those are the ones. But we're talking about maybe putting them into the fire. And think of those great linebackers that we talked about. Think of them at the linebacker spot early in their career. A lot of times it's ugly. And we talk about that growth that we see at the cornerback spot under Phil Parker. But when young guys have to play at the linebacker spots in the past, it hasn't been very good. And because of all that, it's an underrated aspect, I think, right now. But I think it's an important one. What this linebacker group is going to look like. And maybe one of the biggest concerns for Iowa football here this offseason just isn't getting enough run. Caitlin Clark makes her return to Carver Hawkeye Arena. We'll talk about that. Recruiting for both football, basketball, on the women's side and the men's side, and a whole lot more. Tom Kakert from HawkeyeReport.com. He will join us as we continue the latest on the Hawkeyes, the latest on recruiting, and Caitlin's return. It's all next. This is Locked On Hawkeyes. Get your supplies, the supplies that you need, from the site made for the skilled trades. It's Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trademaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM. Supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use the promo code SH5. That'll get you 5% off your first order with Supply House. That's supplyhouse.com. Supplyhouse.com.
Let's talk to Tom Kakert, HawkeyeReport.com, part of On3 Media. Tom joins us every Friday, this being no different. Hello, Tom Kakert. How are you?
Doing great. How are you guys?
Doing well.
Well, as we kind of make our way through the spring, things feel like they're really slowing down. Spring football, obviously, over. We also, not wrapped up, but feel like we're getting towards the end of portal season on the basketball front. Before we get into the men's side and what they did this week, the women's side. So they got Chit Chat a couple weeks ago from Georgia Tech, obviously the connection with her former assistant coach down there. Is Jan Jensen still looking around? What kind of buzz is there on the women's front? What are they still looking for in the portal, if anything?
Yeah, there was somebody that we did a story on this week, the Rodriguez girl, I think it's her last name, from Florida International. She was, I think, Florida International. But they're just kind of poking around. I think they want to, from what I understand, talking to a few people, they want to find kind of maybe a wing 3, wing 2 kind of player, somebody who can shoot a little bit and scoring option. So I think that might be what they were looking for. But the big thing was trying to get a point guard after, Lucy leaves and then Elliot Guyton decides to transfer to Illinois. You got an empty spot there, and I don't think you wanted to throw that all on Addie Deal coming in. So she can kind of get her feet wet a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I fully suspect Addie's going to end up starting at least at some point, maybe from the get-go. But it's just, you don't want to throw all of that right at her right out of the gate and try to fill those shoes. I think that would be a tough ask.
What's this winter going to bring as far as the demand for tickets to see the Iowa women's play? This year was next to impossible. Obviously, the Caitlin's final year it was as well. Do you think that it's plateaued? I mean, there's still going to be interest. Don't get me wrong; it's not going to go back, I don't think, to ever what it once was. But what do we think, Tom? There's got to be some availability for single game tickets this year, as opposed to been a long time since that's been the case.
Yeah, I would imagine there'll be maybe a little bit, but not a lot.
Huh.
I just get the sense that people just really enjoy supporting the women's basketball program at the University of Iowa. And to me, that's really cool that they're doing that.
Yep.
So, but I do wonder if maybe there'll be a little more excitement with the men's program this year with Ben McCollum. And thus far, just from the public relations side, I think Ben McCollum's, he's just winning everything with public relations. He's just, I mean, the legend just continues to grow with him with the thing at the Carroll I Club, putting chairs up. I mean, it was just, but that's him. That's Kirk Ferentz would do the same thing. It's just, that's how they are. So it's interesting. But I think he's going to get some more supporters in his corner coming right out of the gate. Yeah,
no question. Sunday, what's that going to be like? 4:00, ESPN, right?
A lot of fun.
I think it will be too.
To have 22 back in the building. It'll probably outdraw NBA playoff games if there are any that are on it.
That's a really good. I wonder what that number's going to be.
It's going to have a ton of viewers. I mean,
although I'm not sure about the advanced build up on it. Has it been? Because I've watched a lot of NHL and NBA on ESPN. I'm not sure I've seen much publicity for the event. Have you guys?
I haven't either, but boy, it just seems like everything she does, though.
Yeah,
people
true.
Find it, and they're going to tune in and watch whatever she does. I mean, it's just it's pretty awesome, and it'll be fun to have her back in the building because there's just there's a buzz when she walks in a building. There just is. It's different. It's totally different.
Will you guys get here before the event or after, or both?
They have a media availability before, and I think they'll probably do something after, but they're going to do something before the game too, to kind of, get some of those questions out of the way.
Yep.
And which makes sense. And it's so wild. I said to somebody the other day, I think there might be more Indiana Fever fans in the state of Iowa than there are in the state of Indiana.
I said somebody here in the building, we should look into carrying Indiana Fever basketball games.
Well, that's what I know locally here at WQAD. They
brilliant
Fever games on their station last year.
And we had that with Channel 5 here.
I know it was a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they loved doing it.
Yep.
They were like, yeah, we'll preempt all these different things. The whatever it is, we're going to put the Fever on, especially during the summer. I mean, there's just reruns of stuff. Why not put something on there that you can sell?
We don't carry baseball anymore. Mm-hmm. Find the Fever. I mean, there'll be a demand for it.
Oh, absolutely.
We've never seen anything like this. It's phenom.
Completely different.
By the way, plus 400 to win the WNBA this year, right?
Are they?
Yeah. He's been shopping on their Circus Sports app, Tom Kakert.
Boy.
I see what you've been up to.
Somebody has.
Well, you're going to get a pretty good price on the Iowa men to make a run this year. I can't wait to see what those numbers are. Lenardi had them in his bracket that came out this week. A new addition this week. I don't think there's any belief that Tate Sage is going to be a guy that's going to help out this year. But as we look, still investing in this one. Where are you at with Ben McCollum a month into the program and what he has done to build out this roster?
I think they've done well. And I say that just because, I had Connor Wheeler, one of the assistants on our podcast yesterday, and just talked to him about the importance of having some of those guys come with you because they can help build the culture that you want at the University of Iowa and kind of teach everybody what the expectations are on a daily basis within the program. And it's just so important to bring those guys over from Drake that you think can A, help you on the court, but B, establish what you want to be as a program. And I think that was just so key. Now I think they're trying to fill things out, if that makes sense. It's just, the Giffa kid, the kid from High Point, the guard, I wonder if his asking price might be a little too high. We'll see. But they've got Ashton Williamson, a guard from Florida International, who looks pretty decent.
Yeah.
Played guard. He started about half their games last year, and interesting player. They had him on campus yesterday. Cade Tyson, they're still working around with that one, but Minnesota's in there with him. And so they're digging around a little bit. The thing that I thought was interesting that he said at the Polk County I Club, and I think Chad Leistico was the one that reported it. So I want to try and give credit where credit's due, but it was basically maybe not so concerned about going out and getting a big man. And that might just be because they can't get one, because they're so expensive.
Yep.
It's insane how much, Jamie Shaw, one of our national guys, had a thing this past week that, talking to coaches at the Power 4 level, or whatever conference, big conference level, and they're talking about like guys that average 6 points and 3 rebounds a game, getting over $1 million a year in NIL. It's insane. Everybody says it's not sustainable, but until it stops, it's sustainable. And I don't know that it's stopping.
We'll see. What about football? Are they down to their roster? I guess how's Ferentz handling? We heard from Matt Campbell, and I get the sense that Iowa State they're ready to move if they have to, but they're kind of playing a waiting game. If they have to get down to 105, they're waiting on the judge who seemingly opened the door for that to be, trickled in, not necessarily this year, because we're so close to this year. How's Iowa handling roster limits?
They did most of their cutting back in December, and that's where Kirk is kind of ticked off about it. You know what I mean? He's like, we did all this, and now these other teams that kind of held out and just left their guys hanging, they may end up in an advantageous situation moving forward, just because they held on to their guys, and we might be down 20 guys. And it's not like the NFL where you can go sign 10 free agents either.
Right.
It's just not. And there might be some portal guys that are wandering around that didn't find homes that you could bring in potentially. We'll see. But right now I'm just looking at our chart. They're at 107. So they've got to cut down a couple. And scholarship wise, they're at 84 of 85. So they're probably right where they want to be.
So Ferentz in December, giving these kids kind of a head start, in anticipation of getting down to 105. Boy, that's brutal if it backfires. And doing the right thing by the kids, and then to have this come back and maybe not be enacted in place for this year. Can't win.
115, 120, 125. I mean, any guess, or is it just that? It's just a guess what the roster will look like.
It's probably going to be 105, I would guess.
Is it?
I think that's what they're planning on doing. But, it's weird. Like, I'll say this, there's a couple of local kids in the family that I know really well, the Van Wetziga family. But little Rusty was on the team, on the Iowa team as a walk-on in second year as a fullback. And they had to tell him the day after his brother Joey signed a scholarship to the University of Iowa that Rusty was getting cut.
Oh, boy.
Basically, that he was done. And that's just how harsh this is. And then so Rusty ends up going to Central Michigan, and then Joey enrolls early, and he's like, boy, I kind of came here to be with my brother, and he's not here, so I'm out. So They lost two players because of this thing that might not actually be in place. It's bizarre.
I know that there's been a couple of, speaking of walk-on families, that a couple of coaches have been re-engaging, seeing how they're doing at their new stops in case something changes here. That communication continuing to, it's just that there's a lot going on, and that's the reality of this one. Hey, coming out now, wide receivers, I think that was eye-opening for all of us, right? What we saw not just Saturday, but what we heard leading up to it. Quarterback, you feel, is there a position group that you look at and say, you know what, I'm still a little bit concerned? If you had to choose one, your most concerning position group coming out of spring football?
Boy, I would probably say linebacker. Just because, I'm super high on Carson Shire. I think Jaden Harrell is going to be solid, but I just kind of want to see it. But I probably felt the same way a couple of years ago when Jack Campbell and Seth Benson left, and I was like, "Whoa, wonder what it's going to be like." We'll see what this Higgins guy does, and pretty good. Yeah, and they get Nick Jackson, pretty good. So I think that might be the position of concern for me. Maybe D tackle. I should say this: corner is probably my biggest concern, to be honest. That's probably it, is corner, because I just, Hall and Lee, Deshaun Lee have just been kind of spotty. Yeah. There's not much that's been done behind them. It's not a deep position. I think Jalen Watson's going to be pretty good. I honestly think the Barrows kid that they just signed from South Dakota might end up starting eventually. Yeah. So there's just not a lot of depth there, and the guys at the top of things have been spotty. It's been, Paul's been spotty. Lee's been spotty. So maybe everybody elevates, but until I kind of see it more, maybe corner, I think. That's spot.
And add a little bit of safety depth with Ty Hudkins coming in from Purdue.
That 3-year kid, right? He's got 3 years.
3 years to play. Yeah. That dude's hair, though, I think might be the story more than anything. He's got a big old bushy top.
Man, I wish I had a head of hair like that.
I think we all do anymore, right?
It's a losing battle.
Yeah, I hear you. Hey, did Nick Jackson catch on with anybody?
He has. I talked to somebody close to him the other night, and he's got a camp invite with the Giants to do like a tryout camp thing, and then one with the Ravens after that. So he's got two of those. I'm really hoping the Ravens, not just because Jay Higgins is going to end up being there, but in his free agency, but one of Nick's best friends is Kyle Hamilton, the stud safety for the Ravens. Yeah. They've been friends since childhood. So it's like they're his best friend. So just from that perspective, I think that would be pretty cool if he could end up with Baltimore, so those guys can play together again.
Iowa baseball out in Seattle, another awful midweek loss. Tom, they continue to dig themselves a hole. They might win the Big Ten by 4 or 5 games, and it's not going to matter if they keep losing these midweek ones. They got another one next week against UIC. They lose that one. They're in some trouble here, Tom.
Yeah, it's less than ideal to keep dropping midweek games to Illinois State. The funny thing is, it's been Illinois State that's gotten them, and it's the same pitcher.
Really?
That's gotten them. So, he just, for whatever reason, Iowa's been elevating their play in the weekends, but they just kind of take a night off during these weekday games. And it's got to be driving Rick nuts. But I still think they're in pretty good shape, but they can't afford to stub their toe down the stretch. They're going to have to win. But these next 3 weeks are huge. I mean, a couple of late night games coming up this week, guys. 9 p.m. I'm in bed by then. That's how it is when you play in the Big Ten. It's a long way out to Seattle, and they can get a big series win. Then they've got the Oregon State thing in Oregon, and you got Principal Park and the Ducks, a nationally ranked team coming in. Both those teams nationally. I think there were 6 and 7 in baseball in Kendall Rogers rankings this week. I think there was number 6 and number 7 in the country. So got that coming up as well.
Tom Kakert from Hawkeye Report joining us here on Locked On Hawkeyes. More on the Iowa baseball team, plus a huge weekend for the Iowa softball team. What do they need to do to solidify themselves and be an NCAA tournament team? That's as we continue on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where'd all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place so you can stop managing your money and actually start building wealth. I absolutely love Monarch Money. When we started using it, we had money going all over the place. Food delivery, online shopping. Now, as a family, we can budget smarter and save more. And managing your partner with your money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. We absolutely love that part of Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com. That's going to get you 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. monarchmoney.com. Trent Condon back with you one final time. Shout out to you everydayers being with us each and every day. Can't do it without you. Hit subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube. 5-star review on the podcast side, on the audio side, really does help us get in front of more Hawkeye fans. And thank you to you everydayers. Iowa baseball, we talked about it with Tom Kakert a little bit earlier. This Washington series, they're 80th in the RPI. Iowa sits at 71. Need to pile up the victories again. These midweek losses, they are bad. But road victories in Seattle against a team that is ranked in the top 80, this will go a long way. Not just winning the series, but get a sweep. A real possibility of this could be big. Have to go out there, late night games, back to back. Their body clocks are going to be all messed up. This is an important one because we know what still awaits with Oregon State and Oregon still on the schedule for Iowa. The softball team, they have, their last series of the week of the regular season coming up this weekend as they will face off against Rutgers. Now, Rutgers softball, not good. And this is a chance for Iowa, who sits currently in the Big Ten at 12-7. They are solidly in 6th place. They are a game and a half up on Washington, but they're well behind, 2 games behind 3 teams that are tied with 3rd place between Ohio State, Nebraska, and Northwestern. It will be a single elimination tournament. The likelihood is they're not going to be able to get in that top 4, get an opening round bye in the Big Ten softball tournament still this season, as they're going to be looking for a new coach. It's going to be a nationwide search. If they can end this season with all the tumult, all the extra with an NCAA tournament bid, it would be absolutely incredible, and credit to these young ladies. A lot of local flavor being involved. Their RPI sits at 47. They have 4 quad 1 victories. They are 4-10 in quad 1. And a big difference between them and the men's side on the baseball side is they just don't have that same anchor of losses in quads 3 and 4. They're 6-1 against quad 3, 12-1 against quad 4. They have done a lot. That win against UCLA is going to go a long ways, as they got that one back at the end of March. The victory that they had against Nebraska, who remains ranked in the top 25. They got some good victories. Finish it off here, and finish it off with a sweep. Very well could be talking about Iowa softball making a return to the NCAA tournament. Thanks for being with us and making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen today. For your second listen, make sure you check out The Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find The Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great weekend. We'll be back with you Sunday night into Monday morning with the latest what happened in the weekend with the Hawkeyes, any more portal news, and a whole lot more. We're with you. Your team every day here on the Locked On Network. I'm Trent Condon, got you covered on the Hawkeye front. We'll talk to you again on Monday. Until then, go Hawks.